We'll call the February 20th Williams County Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. Beth, will you call roll?
Barry,
Here.
Corey,
Here.
Bo,
Here.
David.
Here.
We have a quorum. We will continue. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we'll start with the consent agenda. What are the wishes of the board?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Beth, roll call vote.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion passes. This is the public comment section. If you're here for anything else that's on the agenda, let's wait for that. But if there's any other general public comments? This is just general public comments, not specific to any item. If you're up for the planning and zoning section, then we'll have that in a little bit.
So that isn't about Atlas or the new data center?
Right, this would be other items that are not
Alright,
on the agenda.
Alright, sorry,
No, all good.
can't hear you guys really well.
Okay. Okay. Not seeing anybody up. Let's jump into new business. Ed?
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Mackey, 49th Latitude Land Survey. I'm currently working on a survey project down in Beaufort Township, which you can see on the map there. Initially, I was concerned that this would involve the common boundary between Williams County and McKenzie County, but after doing some additional research and some calculations, I think that what is shown on the GIS map for Williams County and McKenzie County isn't really an accurate representation of the location of that boundary. As was stated, and this is also part of my discussion with Karen after last week's meeting that I wasn't able to be a part of. Of course, that boundary is established by the state or by state legislature. So on the map there, if you can look, I have a calculated line. It's called the meander line from the GLO, the General Land Office survey in 1901. And if that boundary line was the thread of the Missouri River, that line would represent the north side of the river. So you can see there's probably roughly 1,000 feet or more between that meander line and the line that I'm trying to establish between private ownership and also what is owned by the Corps, the Corps of Engineers. So I just wanted to come to this meeting just because I had broached the subject and just wanted to clarify where I'm at, what we're doing, and what we're kind of figuring. There's gonna have to be a discussion between the landowner, Game and Fish, and also the Corps as to are we gonna honor the GIS, because that's what's been referenced for so many years, or is there some other type of a boundary line agreement between those entities? So if there's any comments or questions, Kent also with Game and Fish is in attendance. The other thing I forgot to mention is back in the 50s, the Corps rerouted the Missouri River. So under survey regulation or survey law, typically accretion or reliction is your boundary is gonna move. But I would consider the rerouting of the Missouri an evulsive action or a change. Therefore, that boundary would be established where it was at that time of the rerouting. So with that, still, the meander line is so far south, 1,000 feet plus of where we're trying to figure out the boundary line that at this point, I think it's a moot point unless there would be any concern from you guys or anybody else. So if you have any questions or.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much, Ed.
Thanks.
Okay. Next, we're going to open up the public hearing. The order of business will be the GoGo Data Center folks will talk, then we'll move to Cameron, and then we'll move to public comment. If we could just go in that order, we'll try to keep it orderly. So GoGo, you guys can approach and state your names for the record.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Andre. I'm the owner of GoGoTech.
Good morning, Andre Turnoff, partner.
Yeah. So there's two Andres here. That's not going to help a lot. But we would like to, are we able to present the presentation? What's the order?
I'm looking to the back. Lindsay's going to come up and find out what.
Just connect the HDMI?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And then we'll have to change the input.
okay,
Did that connect okay?
all right. So, just a recap, we had a meeting with Cameron, the county's development services, on January 22nd. And, we were aware of the moratorium and that some of the hardships that the county was going through. And so we had an opportunity to meet with the team and really get to the bottom of what's causing a lot of problems. And so we had a discussion and we decided to go a route that would avoid the noise pollution that was caused by Atlas Power. And the proposal that we had for the county was to switch the development of that site using water instead of air for the cooling purposes of the data center and essentially eliminating the noise. We studied the ordinances that you guys created. There's a brand new set that came out at the beginning of this year, and we believe that the ordinances are correct and we support them in terms of the noise pollution and how it affects the residents around the data center. But we believe that there was no study done on the hydro or water-cooled data centers for that portion, and by that time, when the ordinances were adopted. And so we wanted to show you guys kind of the scope of the project for our data center and kind of help you guys better understand what the project would look like and how it would impact the local communities and then residential houses within that 1 mile original setback that was agreed upon. So I have the presentation on. If you can pull that up. Oh, okay. It's on the other screen. Okay, got it. Let me pull it. So that I can move that over. Oh, there it is. So we've done a lot of preliminary study for the site, including hiring a third-party acoustic engineering company called Wave Engineering, and we will include some of the findings and rough calculations that they found. So to begin with, we want to first of all address the Atlas data center noise pollution issue. Me and my partner, we've been in mining business for many years, and we very clearly understand what's going on in that facility. In fact, we would have definitely not recommend, and ourselves would not put anything that close to residents. So just to give you guys comparison, currently what we estimated, and we've visited the site, did some just visual estimation based on the transformers, based on what kind of infrastructure is deployed. Atlas Data Center is running around 85,000 servers in their facilities. And if you can see to the right, each server that is inside that facility has on average 7 fans, and thus that's where the air cooling is called. So it uses air primarily to cool off the chips. And if you just do rough calculations, they have about 600,000 fans spinning, and you have the high frequency pitch from those fans because they're 6,000 RPM. They spin fast, and they create a lot of noise pollution. Plus, they're the big heavy exhaust fans that suck the heat from the facilities, dumping it outside. That will also create the low frequency noise. And really, solution for noise pollution when it comes to data centers ultimately is water cooling. And this is it's a newer technology. Has been introduced, relatively recent, I would say 3, 4, 5 years ago. And again, the purpose was to address noise-sensitive areas and make sure that that doesn't happen. So the deployment that we're doing is we're using solely water to cool off those machines, servers, the chips. The setup you see there, we're using dry coolers to cool off the liquid, the water. Again, a really good comparison is like a roof AC unit that you would see on a commercial building, where it has fans that still cool off the radiators for the liquids, but they're not high pitch, high RPM. They're just really quiet in terms of compared to exhaust fans. Again, just running to consistently pull the air through the radiators, but the liquid is a run in a closed loop. It goes inside the machines, cools them, comes out, goes through those dry coolers, goes back inside. So you don't have to always add new water. You just use the same water in the loop. We also further with the setup we're having, we're so confident that there will be no excessive noise pollution from this technology that we're willing to give a county, waive essential rights in terms of allowing the county to shut down or give us, stop order if there is any pollution reported, noise pollution reported, and we have ways that we can mitigate and further decrease if there is any noise that will be produced. In this presentation, you guys can see how typically the shields we have on top of those dry coolers, they're not standard, but we're willing to even go a little farther and add those shields to prevent any noise from bouncing across. And those shields would have foam pads mounted inside, which will prevent any noise from bouncing and amplifying. These fans are pointing upwards, so it's just expelling heat upwards. So the only noise that would be essentially produced would be going vertically. But we're willing to go really far to address this issue. Now, in terms of some of the work that we've done in research, I would like to just reference a couple articles that really emphasize our points here. First one was by in Yahoo Finance. So again, there's links and we can share these. These can be verified. But noise generated by hydro-cooled miners is reduced by a factor of 80% versus traditional air-cooled fan-based mining systems. Again, the purpose of water-cooled development and designs were to address the noise pollution. Decrypt, this is a Skype co-founder. he led $13 million investment in liquid-cooled Bitcoin mining tech. And I quote, "Immersion has benefits for noise and noise pollution, and also from a water use perspective. We want to be at the forefront of making this industry more friendly to local communities. That is the purpose of this type of data center." Then Wave Engineering is the company that we contracted to do a study, preliminary study, and I wouldn't say a study, it was just rough calculations, giving us very conservative numbers. And then what they found, by the way, they're a licensed professional engineer, and then they're board certified by the Institute of Noise Control Engineering of America. So that engineer is on the board there. And then he quote, "We found that the water-cooled Bitcoin farm will be approximately 14 decibel quieter, or dBA quieter, than the air-cooled farm. And for reference, every 10 dBA difference is considered half as loud. So if you go from, let's say, 30 to 40, the noise increased by 2. And then every 10 decibel, it's increased by 2x. But in the reference, in this case, so they found a 14 decibel decrease. If you're just taking a comparison of our data center site using air cooling versus water cooling, they determined that it would be 1/3 compared to the air cooled, 1/3 the sound, so significantly less, more than half. And then we have the article again, the official letter, also provided in the link for anyone to view. And furthermore, they've done again a very rough estimations, and they warned me this is going to be very maximum possible in worst case condition. The maximum peaks that you will hear from our data center. And as you can see, they estimate that 1,000 feet would be pretty much the only concern for this location. And at 2,500 feet, they say that the noise will never exceed 50 decibel, which is a common, residential requirement in the, all across the nation. It's a typical maximum. I do have also, for comparison, a comparison in terms of, minimize that. So this is just a chart that shows examples of what the noise what the noise level, decibel, is at. And so, again, at 2,500 feet, they calculate that, it'll never go above 50 decibel, which is considered, similar to what light traffic is, or refrigerator rainfall noise levels. And then at 60, you have speech, air conditioner working, shower. And then we know that Atlas clocked themselves at around 80 decibel noise level, which is a pretty significant noise pollution for the local residents there. And then, again, so our conclusion is that, the silent data center is possible with the water cooling. It's very efficient for cooling. We're using water. It's very eco-friendly because of the closed loop. There's no, loss of water. And it's a long-term solution, really, that allows for long-term deployments. I'm going to move on here. Also, we did a quick comparison with Atlas Center. We really want everyone to understand clearly that Atlas is a humongous, big data center. It's a over $1 billion project. In comparison, our data center is around $5 million in terms of what it's going to be built. The capacity, we're talking about the capacity that's already deployed by Atlas Power versus what we are planning to deploy. This is phase one for Atlas. This is what's already operational. We have, I understand, future phases that will increase even more power consumption. But just a comparison, they have about 260 megawatts operational. This is just based on the transformers deployed on site. We're going to have 30 megawatts. They have over 85,000 servers with fans. We have 6,000 servers without fans. And this is an example of what we'll be using. It's a machine enclosed with a water cooling system. And then total fans, and then the noise. We did some of our own noise estimates, and we were able to clock or have no noise pollution from Atlas at around 3,500 feet. But again, I understand there's different conditions, weather, wind, and it might change. But we expect that our site will not be doing anything more than 60, decibel level within 300 feet around it. So it'll be very, very significantly quieter. So that's kind of the.
Oh, and another detail to the farm is when the temperature is below zero, none of the fans spin. So for hydro, they don't spin at zero. As we know,
32 degrees
yeah,
Fahrenheit.
32 degrees Fahrenheit. For Atlas, they will spin no matter how cold it gets. They're just overclocking them. So that's one of the big differences between our farms.
As you've already discussed, pitch matters. And so is there a different pitch for water-cooled versus air-cooled? Because the air-cooled is annoying as it possibly could be
Yeah.
at that pitch.
Absolutely. So the air pitch that you hear is from the little fans inside those machines. Again, they run at 6,000 RPM, which is really fast, and they create the high-pitched noise. And in our case, the only fans that are spinning are on top of those AC cooling units. They're very low RPM. They're around 200 RPM, very slow, just pulling in general air through those radiators. So there's no high-pitched noise whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for them?
We also wanted to emphasize that we are so confident that this farm will be quiet, or this data center will be quiet, that we're willing to have, the data center be shut down, give a lot of the power to the county in terms of the noise, because we're very confident in it being quiet.
Question, if I may.
Of course.
Are you involved in any other data centers?
Yes.
Are any of them water-cooled?
So in terms of water-cooled, we have not built out a water-cooled data center because it's a pretty recent new technology, but we did visit actual data centers that are operational, that are water-cooled. We've done studies that way. And we also talked with the manufacturers and saw their prototype versions operational.
So personally, you have zero experience with water-cooled facilities?
Building out in terms of water-cooled, we don't have any of those built out.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Cameron, if you want to come up. But you're going to get an opportunity. When I opened the public hearing, I suggested that Gogo will go first, Cameron will go second, and then we are going to allow public comment right after Cameron. Thank you.
Do we go sit down?
Why don't you stay there in case there's any questions that come up that need to be answered, so.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cameron Heimer, Development Services. Yes, so I'll just kind of go over a recap on what the appeal is about and my findings for that. Excuse me, I should have brought up a bottle of water. So on January 22nd of this year, we did meet with GoGo Tech regarding a proposed 30-megawatt air-cooled cryptocurrency mining data center consisting of approximately 30 modular containers to be placed in Section 35 of Judson Township. During the application meeting, we determined that the site did not meet setback requirements of at least 1 mile from sensitive properties and 3 miles from any existing data centers. Oh, thank you. There are approximately 40-plus homes that lie within the 1-mile sensitive property setback, and again, an existing data center lies approximately 2 miles away. Following that pre-application meeting, I sent GoGo Tech a decision letter informing them that a CUP application could not be accepted because the location failed to meet setback requirements. I also informed them that reducing the setback requirements did not meet the full criteria listed in Chapter 3-4 of the Williams County zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations for a variance. The next day, GoGo Tech did reach out to us, and they informed us that they would switch their project over to the hydro cooling technology, and that noise pollution would be completely eliminated. They also, as they explained, felt like the county didn't do their due diligence on hydro cooling noise pollution when creating the new ordinances, and that they were willing to work with the county to amend those ordinances. So my analysis on that, as you recall, I'm sure, less than 2 months ago, on January 2nd, 2024, the commission adopted ordinance number 2024-01-02, adding regulations for data centers. The ordinance does address different cooling methods, including water cooling. SRF Consulting, who helped staff draft the new ordinance for data centers, also conducted zoning policy case studies of other communities with extensive experience regulating various types of data centers. And they were from all over the United States. I won't list every single state that they pulled that from. I also recently spoke about hydro-cooled mining with management at Northern Data Group, who are constructing a 30-megawatt cryptocurrency mining facility in Grand Forks. They informed me that hydro-cooled facilities have the potential to be quieter, but it's not a guarantee. Even hydro-cooled facilities have cooling fans. The design of the cooling system and weather can cause higher fan speeds on the cooling towers, thus creating increased noise. I also recently just returned from touring the Merkle Standard Data Center in Usk, Washington. That site's a 927-acre site, and it was a former paper mill that filed for bankruptcy in 2020. Merkle Standard purchased the property and began crypto mining in 2022. Merkle Standard has 23 hydro-cooled ant space boxes, and each box has its own cooling tower. They use what is called a dry-wet cooling tower. And the way it was described, the way I understand it, dry-wet would run through a heat exchanger. It's a glycol water mixture that would go to a cooling tower where the heat exchanger is located. That cooling tower also relies on water that's separate in a bath to come down and sprinkle it down to help keep the temperatures lower. Something unique with that system is the cooling towers had 3 fans, and the Connex container, the shipping container, had a single ventilation fan, so 4 fans total. The project that GoGo Tech, as I understand, is proposing is a dry cooling system. It lacks the water bath that comes down, and I believe that from their numbers that they had given us, there's 22 fans per data or per ant box. During my time there at Merkle Standard, I was measured roughly 79.3 decibels standing in front of the container. I was actually surprised at how much noise hydro-cooled units still make. The units GoGo Tech, like I said, we're proposing actually have more fans than that. When I was there, it was 30 degrees during the day. I got to speak with management a little bit further. They're kind enough to kind of answer some of the questions I had. Some of them were kind of self-evident, but I asked if the units were louder in the summertime versus the wintertime, and yes, the noise was variable with temperature. Did you build the hydro-cooled miners to try and reduce noise? They answered and said, no, we're using hydro-cooled miners to extend their longevity. Even though hydro-cooled units cost significantly more up front, they'll save money in the long run because the cooler the miners run, the longer the equipment will last. Have you ever received complaints about the sound? No, the topography here offers trees, hills, mountains, and water, which all play a major factor in sound mitigation. And then I went over our new ordinance with them, and I said, do you feel that the setbacks of 1 mile from sensitive properties is appropriate? Yes. It's the best thing you can do for clock miners is to help with sound mitigation is to have setbacks and distances. My finding from that is that the topography in Williams County does not include thick forests, as we know, or mountains that help with sound mitigation. It would be, in my opinion, that our data center setbacks, cryptocurrency mining, whether air-cooled or hydro-cooled, are appropriate. I was able to review the documents that GoGo Tech provided to us, too, and I just had some concerns about some of the articles that they had shared. The first one that they had shared was an article. It wasn't written by Yahoo Finance. It's simply a press release from a Bitcoin mining company, Blue Sky Digital Assets, that simply had it uploaded to Yahoo. It offered no further information, proof, or study for its 80% reduction in noise claim. The second one they use from decrypt.co, that is talking about immersion. They're not even proposing an immersion system. Immersion for cryptocurrency is where the miners are dipped in a dielectric fluid to quiet the noise. But that is not what they're proposing from my understanding, and so that would not be applicable. The study from Wave Engineering, it does state that their evaluation is in general in nature, and they have not evaluated a plan with specific equipment layout, instead relying on information provided to them by GoGoTech. They also added that noise levels will vary depending on orientation of, excuse me, the equipment, the terrain, et cetera. So going over these, I'm confident that our ordinance is appropriate for both air and water-cooled facilities, and my recommendation would be to deny the appeal and to not allow them to build in this location, as it does not meet our ordinance standards. If the commission is interested, I could provide some videos and some sounds from the Merkle Standard facility. Again, it's a dry wet cooling method, or any other questions I'd be more than willing to answer.
Thank you, Cameron. Any questions for Cameron? Oh,
Can I have a comment as well?
yep.
Yeah, so the Merkle facility, does it have any air-cooled miners running there?
It certainly does, yeah. I don't have the exact number, but the air-cooled miners were further away from on the property. I only toured the water-cooled.
Okay. Yeah, it's all in one location, so they have water-cooled and air-cooled on the same site. We visited that site as well, and we know what that site looks like.
Yeah, the air-cooled are very close. They're about a couple hundred feet away
Yeah.
from the water-cooled that are basically at the same site. So it's going to be pretty hard to measure the water-cooled
Versus
versus air if they're right next to each other.
Yeah. Can't really use that data, because of that mixture.
Okay.
I guess I also failed to mention when I'm speaking with both Northern Data Group, Merkle Standard, and even going through Bitmain's website, sound reduction was never the point of water-cooled. Even on their website, that's not one of the selling points that I could find. It was simply for the longevity of the equipment, so it doesn't run as hot.
Okay. If you guys want to have a seat, and then we're going to allow public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you could state your name for the record.
Good morning. My name is Tom Lennon. I'm the developer and property owner. And so I wanted to go over some history in regard to this, to our site. 11 or 12 years ago, we came to the county and met with the planning department. I believe Ray Pacheco was the head of planning at the time, and we said, we're going to be doing large industrial projects, oil-related, ancillary oil service companies. Where do you want the heaviest industrial properties to be in Williams County? And Ray directed us to 1804 and the particular sites that we own. So we worked with Montreal Williams, put a substation out there to provide the power. We've done transactions there with Highland Crude, Plains Pipeline, Stat Oil, Rose Rock. We did the Dakota Access Pipeline lift station. So today you have a proposal in front of you from GoGo Technology. We don't know anything about cryptocurrency, and so have concerns because we understand there are problems with the Atlas facility. As property owners, we don't want to be in a quagmire with the county and the community over noise pollution. So we put GoGo, we really put their feet to the fire and said, how is it that this facility is going to not create the problems that the Atlas facility created? And so we've studied this a lot. The Atlas facility is on 77 acres. GoGo proposes to do a 2-acre footprint. The Atlas facility is at a $1.9 billion facility. GoGo's will be a $5 million facility. The Atlas facility has 600,000 fans. When I first learned that, I thought they meant 6,000. I couldn't be 600,000, and it is 600,000. And the Atlas facility is surrounded by residential properties. I've visited that site on multiple occasions. Those houses are directly across the street from that facility. And the houses to the south, there are multiple dozens of houses that are directly, almost on that property's boundary line. So we asked Gogo, what will be different here? Well, we're going to use a hydraulically cooled system. So they won't have 600,000 fans. They will have 600 fans, or 99.999% less noise equipment on this 5-acre site. Excuse me, 2-acre site. If it's possible that they could bring up that aerial again that they provided of the noise circles, I'd like to speak to Cameron about the residential. Our research shows us that there's only one house within 3,300 linear feet of this site, and that is the house that's at the corner, one single-family residence. We don't have dozens of houses, nothing across the street. There's one, it's 3,300 linear feet away, and it's outside of the wave technology decibel levels that are standard for residential communities. The other 3 houses that we can find, not 40, 3 houses that we can find are 4,300 linear feet away. So that's 3/4 of a mile away from this site. So you mentioned a much larger number, and I've driven it, I've looked at every one of the houses. They're not the number of houses that you say within a mile of that site.
So just to give a little further description on that and to clarify, maybe to help answer your question, our ordinance is specific the way it is written, that it is for the exterior boundaries of any property.
Okay, then I would point this out. We have over,
And so when we measured it from the exterior boundaries of the property, not of where the proposed containers would be located or where the sublease or 10-acre lease they have, the property's never been subdivided. There was over 40 homes within a 1-mile radius. GIS did the study with our maps, and then we sent out the mailing notifications for that 1 mile.
okay, respectfully, the boundaries of the property, this is a 170-acre property. The boundary is 3,300 feet away from this site. So to take the boundary would be completely inappropriate. This is the pollution from the footprint of this property, of this building that they'll be doing, not from the outskirts of our property. If we had a 2-mile wide property, the noise that levels out 2 miles will not be a problem. So for him to be taking the boundaries of our property, which is an enormous property, which goes 3,300 linear feet away from this site to the boundary, is inappropriate. The 3 houses that are near this site, 2 of them are 4,300 linear feet away, and one is 3,300, 2/3 of a mile away. That's very important for the board to understand. We're not surrounded like the other side. Immediately across the street, if the arrow come up, you would see it. So I think it's inappropriate to be taking the outside boundaries of our enormous property as the starting point. But let me continue on. So again, we're cautious.
Just 1 second, Cameron, like, comment on that.
If I could just add, I would completely disagree. It's not inappropriate. I'm just following the ordinance which this board approved. I'm not making up boundaries of what I think is appropriate. That is the way the ordinance is written. I am bound by the ordinance. I have no other choice but to follow the ordinance.
So does it, in the ordinance, does it ask how many homes in a mile? It says no homes within 1-mile radius, correct?
Yeah, it describes it as a sensitive property, which would include homes, parks, schools, synagogues, and it would be the exterior boundary of the property where a data center is located to the nearest property line of a sensitive property.
So if as the ordinance reads, if there was 1 home in the middle, in 1 mile from there, and that was it, it still would not qualify.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, you can continue.
Bear with me a second here. So, again, like I say, we don't want to be in some quagmire from the county, so we want to be relatively sure that we're not leasing and creating a problem for us as property owners. So, I've done my research, and they presented articles that the hydraulic cooling systems are quieter than the fan systems. I went to Bitcoin Mining Magazine and read an article that wanted to just read here. It says air versus hydraulically cooled Bitcoin miners. What is sometimes not looked at is that air-cooled mining, air-cooled mining creates decibel levels of 70 to 80 decibels. And however, this is what the article said, however, hydraulic cooling potentially eliminates the unbearable operating noise to an undetectable level. This could be especially important when developing facilities near homes. So we're hearing that this technology that they're going to use is much better than the air-cooled technology. So, the way that I sum this up is that Atlas is 77 acres. This is 2 acres. Atlas is $1.9 billion. This is $5 million. Atlas has 600,000 cooling fans. They're going to be hydraulically cooled. The closest house is 2/3 of a mile away, and that's only one. If you look at the aerial, there's only one out there. And it has a conditional use permit for industrial use. So it does have an industrial use component to it. The next 2 homes are 4,300 linear feet from the site, 3/4 of a mile. And then you have the wave engineering studies that say that this facility will not produce any greater noise than is acceptable standards further than 2,500 feet away from the site. Acceptable residential dBA or decibel level standards. So I asked GoGo, are you confident that your hydraulic technology will reduce your operational noise levels to those that are standard for residential communities for that single house out there and the other 2? And they said yes. Then I said, would you be willing to give the county ultimate power over your facility? Would you be willing to give the county and the community the ability to shut it down if they did not meet standard residential decibel levels for the 3 houses that we are concerned with that that as we look at it practically? And they said, yes, they would, and they have provided that letter, a shutdown letter to you, a trigger that gives you the ultimate confidence, if they're not telling the truth, that you may shut them down and these 3 neighbors will not be bothered by excessive noise pollution. Now, that was a cinch for us when we heard that, because that says to us, if they're willing to do that, the whole thing can be solved if their facility is too noisy.
Mr. Lennon, if I may, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a conditional use permit, we already hold that right to do that.
Okay. Well, then we believe that this site is strategically located for them. It's surrounded by heavy industrial uses. It's the heavy industrial zoning that you have as a county. It has a very limited, not surrounded by homes on all sides, very limited, quite a distance away. And we believe that their noise that they're going to create based upon the wave engineering study would be no greater than 80% to 90% of the users that are already approved for this site. This is heavy industrial. We don't believe there'll be any noisier than a trucking facility, a diesel trucking facility, and we think the regulations that have been created for
Yep.
their small projects.
Mr. Lennon, we've got a lot of people here to talk, so,
That was my conclusion.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just reference one more thing, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
Mr. Lennon, you kept referring to there's only one individual within the distance. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 100. This board has a responsibility to every citizen in Williams County. So if it's 1 or if it's 100, it doesn't matter. Thank you.
I agree, but respectfully, the wave report shows that the noise pollution would be at residential levels at that single
We
house.
were also told that by Atlas Data Center at 35 decibels, so. Okay, who's next? If you could state your name for the record, please.
Virginia Vossen. I'm a homeowner that lives within a mile of the proposed facility. And the topography of the area is that the location where the industrial is on the top of a hill. We live at the bottom. And so all the noise comes down. Anyway, I can hear Atlas over 2 miles away when it fires up. We hear the diesel trucks up on the hill. There's 40 of us that live in a subdivision at the bottom. You know, it's a gradual decrease. And so we are quite concerned about the noise. Because like I said, we already hear Atlas. When they fire up, we can hear it. And we're well with over 2 miles away. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. If you can just state your name for the record, please.
Good morning, my name is Michelle Arend. I just wanted to state that that the ordinance that was approved at the beginning of the year stating the, another cryptocurrency facility should not be within 3 miles or near, or a mile with a, sorry, I'm very nervous, within a residence. I support, because we know that even outside those boundaries, people are still affected by this kind of business. And so I ask that we keep with the law that's in place. We can't go into this blindly and just hoping that their good feeling is correct. As already stated, we're dealing with that already with the current facility. And it's super disruptive, and I don't wish that on anybody. The one family, I would never wish this upon them. I ask that we take our time and do this right for the residents, so we're not in the same situation that we're currently in. There's a lot of land here in North Dakota. I support businesses, I'm not against them, but I think quality of life overseas, once we have, if we were to approve this, I feel like sometimes greed is viewed a little higher than people's feelings. So I would hate to see a business putting in millions of dollars to put up this business and then everybody tiptoeing around because they feel bad having to shut them down. Even with them saying, we give up our hands, if we're too loud, we'll shut down. We know money usually talks a little louder, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's additional public comment, but while they're speaking, if Ryan, if you could just for view, I did have GIS put together. It's just a draft map of where these could be located, still meeting our ordinance, just to give the public and everyone an idea. It would pretty much be the unshaded areas would still fit the requirements of the ordinance and would allow for a build out of those.
Perfect, thank you. Who would like to talk next? Yep, just state your name for the record, please.
I'm Kathy Walton, and I live more than a mile away from Atlas. And I just, I'm not as progressive as some, but I think we need to be careful when we let these kind of companies come in. And whether there's a home within a mile or we own property, it limits the property owner's ability to develop their own land if there is this kind of intrusion. Anyway, I want to play. I recorded it this morning. I'm more than a mile away. Can you hear that?
We can hear
It's
it.
almost every day. And the other thing I wanted to mention, even if it's water, in the 80s, we closed down Camp Cherith because there wasn't enough water. There were places along the river where you couldn't get your boat in. Recreation was hindered. What if the water goes low again? What if we have a drought this summer? I think they need to think about that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Carrie Turnquist, and I live within 1 mile of the proposed site. So I appreciate, Dave, your comment about we have our current policy, okay? You guys very much know that that was created from lack of knowledge, per se, from the current situation with Atlas that we're in. We can all agree on that. I guarantee you that. So they say that they want full disclosure to be able to give to you guys to shut them down whenever appropriate, okay? Because of the noise. Well, we had a township meeting on January 25th. GoGo came to the Judson Township, which I am not a part of. I'm part of the Trenton Township, which this affects multiple townships, as Atlas does as well. And over 50 residents were at this meeting, and I can guarantee you there was not one resident that was at that meeting that was for this, okay? And that's not even touching heading west and south into the Trenton area, okay? So they gave us a whole bunch of information, the 660 fans on this 2-acre property. The information that we're kind of seeing today is the numbers are a little bit different than what we were given at that meeting. So they say they want full disclosure of being able to give you guys the ability to shut them down. Well, I know with the Atlas facility, there was also some of that, maybe a little bit wrong numbers, the amount of fans that were gonna be there versus the noise, that type of stuff. Are we really gonna get back into where we were at with Atlas with this? I do believe, and I have ultimate respect for you guys, that you will make the right decision based on the information and knowledge that you've been given. You don't have to go to a facility to hear it. On TikTok, you can go to Bitcoin Capitalist. They are also into this business, the hydro business, and they've been in it for many years. It is loud. You can also look up multiple lawsuits against them because of noise ordinances. And talking about the area that the noise reaches. So I can hear Atlas facility, and I'm probably about 4 miles from the way the crow flies. You guys live in the country. There's a reason we live in the country, right? Because we want that quiet side of things, okay? They compared numbers. First, they gave us a number of 50 decibels out there, standard traffic. Then a few sentences later, they said 60 decibels. So what is it, okay? I moved in the country because I don't want to have to hear the truck traffic and all that stuff. I live along the river, okay? I can hear every Jake break. I already can hear every traffic that goes across the bridge on a cool, crisp day as I'm sitting out on my deck because I live in the country and that's what I long to have. If I wanted to hear all that truck traffic and all that stuff, I would have moved closer to the town, okay? They say that the noise restriction in area within that 3 mile, I respectfully disagree with the zoning ordinance and state that it needs to be further. Okay, and the reason why is because you're limiting the residents. Bents are in the house right now, and they will be probably saying that these statements are true. It limits them. It isn't going to their current property line. It's going to their house where the setback is that they're giving you those numbers to. What if they wanted to expand? What if they wanted to put a house closer to their property line? Then that causes more houses involved in it. What if Hurley's wanted to do that? Okay, that doesn't, you're limiting the number of people within that area based off of it. Okay, so you're also limiting the number of people that can expand within that area. Another big concern that if you do, research on this stuff, that I would assume the Game and Fish would be also very, very concerned about this as well. I've done multiple research, and if this does go through, we'll provide that to you guys and also bring in the Corps into here that gets involved with this. That the areas where these bit mining companies, hydro as well as electric, fan-based, your natural wildlife is disappearing in those areas. Do we really want that? I don't believe that the Game and Fish would like that very much. And we are right next to a river base and where this is gonna be located. I love to hear the sound of those coyotes at night, okay? And I know all the residents that live in that area, they do as well, okay? So do we really wanna drive out our animals? Halversons have cows in that area, horses in that area. What are we doing to them? Have we even touched that aspect of it? We haven't, but if it goes through, I guarantee you I will. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on the topic? Thank you. If you could state your names for the record.
Good morning. My name is David Bentz. This is my wife Tammy. We live within a half a mile where they want to put this. And as the gentleman explained, he don't care. There's only one house, maybe two houses. He told us right there that they don't care about the people in this community. They come from out of state. They don't give us the full description. You guys found that out with Atlas. They give us partial stuff. All the research that we've done on the hydro and on the air is the same thing. A lack of what they're actually gonna do. So this is where it gets to be a big problem. We all found that out from Atlas. We're 2.3 miles from Atlas, and we hear it on a daily basis. But these guys come into our community from out of state. They don't care. They come and they leave. It doesn't benefit the community at all. Right now, just from that electrical plant to my house is approximately 2,600 feet. We measured it off. We didn't drive the roads. We went across country. That's my house. To my son's house is actually even closer. So I don't agree with his 3/4 of a mile, 2/3 of a mile. We know, we measured it. We don't agree with what they want to do because they say 2 acres, that's phase 1. When does phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 come in? And then the noise comes in again. And then it's going to expand more than what they're saying, which we don't believe anyway because we don't actually get the full story. So, and approximately, those lots are sold in 10 to 15 parcel acres. They say 2 acres. Well, we got this from them saying, this is what they're doing. That's not 2 acres.
That's 10 acres.
That's 10 acres. So, there again, they're not telling us the full story.
And when we went to the meeting at the township, they had a little tiny square right here in front of the electrical. Well,
This
of
was
course, it
sent by
looked better, but
them.
yeah, they sent this to me on my email.
So we know
That's
it's
a
not gonna
whole
be just
10
a 2 acre deal. It's gonna be more. And it's gonna get bigger, it's gonna get bigger, and it's
And
gonna get
closer.
bigger and closer.
So I guess we were just asking that you make the right decision, and
Stick with the ordinances that you guys put into place.
thank you.
Appreciate your time, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment? Any other comments? Yep.
Gerald Halverson, Section 26, Judson Township. Going to be short and sweet. I guess I would invite each and every one of you out there, if you haven't been out there, bring your families with you. Look at your wife, girlfriend, whatever. Ask them if they want to build a house out there. I'm 2 miles away. We hear it every day. Every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments? Any other comments? Yes.
I just wanted to comment about the map on the screen. One thing that is missing from this picture is that all these properties, the only property we can use to do any of this type of work is, has to be next to a substation. So when we work with Montreal Williams Electric Cooperative to tell us, you know, which substation has power available and what is the capacity, we have to go off of what they tell us. And so this is not really accurate in terms of you can't build, you know, in all these locations. It has to be next to a substation, and then plus that substation has to have power capacity. And there is no future expansion because, as you know, some of the comments, you know, the 10 acres is what we're leasing totally, but the site will be built on a 2-acre. That's how big the facility will be, and it will be not ever expanded because of the power capacity at the substation. We can't do anything more unless you bring another substation, you know, I mean, which is completely not doable. So just some of the clarification to make sure that we're on the same page, wanted to just provide. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Is there any other comments? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing and turn it over to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion due to the fact that this does not follow our current adopted guidelines of our zoning regulations that we deny the GoGo Tech appeal request.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Corey, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote, please.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, we are moving on to planning and zoning, section G.
Let the commotion kind of people leaving.
Sure.
Okay, good morning, Michelle Haugen, staff planner. On this one, on February 6, 2024, our office presented 3 cases for Samuel Engineering, Inc. on behalf of Select Water. Mr. Greg Nelson approached the board during the public hearing to discuss Condition 4 on all 3 items presented. Condition 4 as presented reads that the county will have access to the holding ponds for water at no cost to the county for the maintenance of county roads. Our office interpreted the discussion in motion as this condition would remain on the items as is. After sending our approval letter on February 7th of 2024, we were contacted by Select Water as they understood it as that the condition was being amended to read as Select Water Solutions will provide Williams County access to the storage ponds if water was needed, and we would supply that water if available at a negotiated rate at the time of need. So what we are doing is we're just looking for clarification on Condition 4 for LU-0079-23, LU-0080-23, and LU-0081-23. If changes are to be made, we would like to also strike the Condition 4 from the plan LU-0080, as this site does not actually include a holding pond.
Okay.
Well, when I made the motion to approve, my intention was to leave Condition 4 in, and I asked the gentleman if he, you know, if we were on the same page, and he nodded in agreement, so that was my intention anyway.
Come on up. Just state your name for the record.
Greg Nelson. I apologize that there's confusion on that. So that's why I'm here today, is to clarify this. As I'd stated, this isn't a typical water depot that, you know, serving a public interest. This is contracted water that we're using for, the project is actually underwriting, the customer is underwriting the project, and this is spoken for water, so it's not that we have extra available water there just for use by anyone.
Well, and as Dennis stated, you know, we do this with all of these applications that come through. I mean, it's not that the county is going to consume a couple million barrels of water. If there's some sort of issue going on at the time during your project, the county needs a couple truckloads of water. Is that correct? I mean, that's what the access is for.
Okay, and that's, I think, where we're looking for some clarification as to what those volumes would actually be, or stating some sort of a limitation. As it reads now, it's very open-ended, where it's unlimited free access to the water. So,
We won't be using all your water. And I, just by my guess, just where the locations are, probably never will. But it's just part of the general approval.
okay, would we be able to add the verbiage in there to add in, to say, at select's discretion? I mean, if we've got an ongoing project, we don't want to impact our operations with, when we don't have, you know, extra water available at that time, perchance.
Well, so when to Mr. Ramberg's comment earlier, he asked you at the last meeting if, would this be a deal breaker? That was the clarification question he asked. So, I mean, Dennis, I'm gonna ask you to just give us a little reference, but my assumption would be water for roads if we're doing some sort of building project, or possibly if there's a huge fire out there, we're asking folks to be neighborly and allow access for water in case there's a need. Correct?
Correct. And we're not gonna misuse it, and we're sure not gonna get in the middle of your operation. But we do need a load or two at times for maintenance. It's not we're coming in there to get billions of barrels.
And I think, just to make it perfectly clear, I guess we could state not to exceed. Would a not to exceed number be okay? And if so, then special circumstances arise or whatever, but, I mean, I think what Select's looking for is just to remove some of the ambiguity.
Yes, yeah, we are looking to remove.
Is there a number? How much can a truck hold?
We have
Yeah.
anywhere from 4,000 to 5,500 gallons.
And when you do it, do you usually get multiple loads, or would you just get one? Would it, depends on the search, I understand, worst case scenario.
Maybe
Was
two.
this issued as a conditional use permit?
What was that?
Was this approval issued as a conditional use permit?
It is, yes.
I don't know that we need to convolute it any more than, in my opinion, is, because if there ends up being a problem, that they don't treat us the way that we should, feel we should be treated, as you said, neighborly, we pull the conditional use permit.
Yeah, and I'm not here to, we don't want to be unneighborly, that's.
Right, so I mean, the 4,000 gallon truck or the 5,500 gallon, we're talking about, you know, somewhere between 90 and 130 barrels of water, and we might do that once or twice if we have an issue. I mean, this is a pretty small amount of water compared to what you have in mind with your project. I mean, that, if I remember right, I think that will be less than 1 minute of pumping for you.
Yeah.
Barry, I don't disagree with you, but I guess the concern I have it is we're setting a precedence, and what's the next guy gonna ask for? I guess. That's why I feel as long as use permit, we can deal through the conditional use permit if there's a problem.
My thought is that we have Karen, who makes sure we do things right. I'm sure Select does as well. And when they see an open, ambiguous statement of we're just want to have access to water whenever we need it, it probably raises a few red flags. And so I guess in fairness, I understand why you're wanting some clarification, and I think, is it easy enough to do, accommodate that?
Yeah, I mean, if we can just put, I mean, with the language that's in there right now, as it sits, if we could just amend it to say the county will have access to the holding ponds at select water's discretion, that's the added verbiage, for water at no cost to the county for maintenance of county roads. That would be,
Well, so long as Select's understanding that we also have the conditional use permit as
That is understood.
Commissioner Montgomery said, you could pull that at any time, so, I don't know. Right, no, I know, yeah,
I would tend to believe if there was a need, whether it's the road getting into your location, or
Right.
if there's a huge fire out there that's coming close to your location, they're gonna be good neighbors and help us out.
yes, that's,
I'm fine with whatever. Yeah. Yeah,
My personal opinion, as it stands, as it reads, we agree that, I mean, you've heard from our road department. The county has zero use for a couple million barrels of water. I mean, we do roads, I mean, we do public service projects. That's what we do. So, I mean, I guess that's why I asked the question, if it was a deal breaker.
I guess.
That's my opinion, but.
yeah. Do we want to add any clarification, or do we want to just,
I guess I would just, rather than muddy it up, I mean, I would just leave it the way it was. And I mean, if we were to need some water in the future, I mean, we just don't show up and tell you. I mean, you will be we get a hold of you and all this, and if we need, 100 barrels or something, if your holding pond doesn't have it, then clearly we can't get it, right? I mean,
If the pond is empty, yeah, there's nothing to give, that is
Yeah.
correct.
there's no point in muddying up the water then, right?
okay? I guess we're gonna leave it as is.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to clarify that?
Karen says she would like a motion to,
To make a motion to suggest that we're not changing anything?
Well, I mean, he was making a request, I mean, a motion to, leave it as is, yeah. I mean, just so that there's some sort of, something on the record saying that you responded to his request.
Leave as approved February 6th?
Yeah.
I would make a motion to go with the original motion from our last meeting.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second? Any discussion? David, yes. Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote, please.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Lindsay, you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Coming to you today with some proposed updates to the township loan program for your consideration. Bringing these to you today because townships start meeting for their annual meeting on March 1st. So if you wish to make these changes, we'd be able to communicate these to them prior to those meetings. There are two administrative changes, the first being the mill levy requirement. As currently stated, the township loan program has a requirement of levying at least 9 mills for a minimum of 3 consecutive years. We'd like to suggest just changing the language to priority will be given. There's a variety of reasons that folks do or do not levy, and it may even be that they apply for a subdivision that they wouldn't have typically levied for, and that's why they haven't been. We just want to be able to provide as much flexibility as possible to the townships, just because this has been an underutilized program, so just trying to make it a little bit easier. And then the other change would be to the deadline. It currently has a deadline of January 15th, which at times makes sense, but in practicality has been a little bit difficult for a variety of reasons. And so Julie and I are suggesting to accept applications on a rolling basis. We would obviously still adhere to statutory deadline requirements that are part of the program with establishing an improvement district, levying specials, et cetera. But it would just, again, give us more flexibility to work with the townships through the process, and then us still adhere to those statutory. So 2 changes being the mill levy being a priority as opposed to a requirement, and then the timeline going from January 15th to a rolling basis.
Perfect. What are the wishes of the board?
Make a motion to approve those changes to the township loan program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, State's Attorney. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning. It's been a while since I've been up here. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is offer to purchase minerals in Rainbow Township from Caddo Minerals. Usually when we get offers, from different oil and gas companies about our minerals and stuff, it's usually an offer to lease minerals, really. Sometimes they come with an offer to lease and an offer to purchase, but when I usually present the board, I just offer it as a offer to lease, really. So I guess my question is really if you're interested in offers to purchase leases, to purchase minerals rather than lease them. I did, when we got this letter, I did reach out to the gentleman. He said that they're interested only in purchasing and not leasing. And so I guess the question is this something you want to pursue, that you want me and Beth to pursue on the county's behalf, is to purchase minerals?
Well, I think personally, absolutely not. I guess I would say no. Do we just make a motion? Does that work, Chairman? I would make a motion to deny this offer to purchase along with any future ones.
Oh, that makes it easier, because that was my next question is that, yeah, I appreciate that.
Perfect. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, then the second item on the agenda is a national opioid litigation. One of the parent companies, those 2 of the defendants in the national opioid litigation, is declared bankruptcy. And so now they've come up with a bankruptcy plan, which also includes spending $273 million for the states involved, and also the political subdivisions of the state to share in the money for opioid litigation, really. However, in this situation, the idea is to give the $273 million to the states and let them make the funds available to their political subdivisions, really, for opioid abatement programs, really. So I guess I'm really looking to see a motion from the board basically approving the plan, really.
So we're approving to say we want to give it to the state and have them decide? Is that what
Yeah.
you're asking?
Yeah, we're approving the amount, and that we're gonna, to tell you the truth, if you don't approve it, it's like, the only option really is to stay out and go after Endo ourselves, though, really. So it's like,
Settlement was 19 billion, is that correct?
yep.
And now the settlement amount is 273 million.
Well, no, the 19 billion is the amount that we, in the original settlement with like Johnson & Johnson and Janssen, the distributors there and manufacturers. This is like a different set of manufacturers, really, because it's like, during the whole national opioid litigation, it's like they're sort of bundling different settlement people. Different settlement people kind of grouped together, and then another settlement people grouped together. Like the last one we had was Walmart, Teva, Allergan, and CVS, really. So in the one before that, we had Johnson & Johnson, Janssen, and some other people. So it's like they're kind of sometimes grouping together and doing settlements, really. And the 19 billion is the one from the original first settlement, really. But then again, the 19 billion is going to be spread over, I think there was one set that was over 8 years, another set over 16 years, and the idea with this one, it being lower, is it would over a couple of years, really, so. But then again, there's no guarantee that the county will get anything, and I really don't know if the state is gonna set up some sort of like a program for the city, for like counties and cities to apply or grant, or I don't know how that's gonna work, but right now, all we're really focusing on and whether or not, because by approving this, we're really sort of settling with Endo.
And if we don't, then you gotta go fight them yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get this
I
done.
wouldn't do that.
What do you guys want to do?
I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'd second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Karen.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Okay. County Administrator?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we can go in the order on the list here, if that works for you guys.
Perfect.
Position report first. Seeking permission to fill one corrections officer position. We did have a resignation.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and then just a heads up that we do this time of year open positions for seasonal workers. Parks Vector Weed Control is really where we employ seasonal staff. And then we do have elections in June and November. And so you'll see those advertised as well. Poll workers have 1 day of training and then work on election day. But that's open to the public. We invite citizens who want to be a part of the process to do that. All right, next on your list would be continued discussion on our path forward with the 1%, what we call today the public safety sales tax. Last time we had some discussion, and I think we left it to this meeting to see as how your thoughts might gel together.
Okay. Do you want to roll through it, or do you want just questions?
Well, I mean, I think the last time, what we're looking for from you all is direction on this philosophy, this general guiding principle on how the funds would be distributed out of the county's portion of that money, or the portion that we keep, that we don't remit to the city. In order to speak with the stakeholders who are interested in where this money is going and to educate the voters, we need direction from this board as to what your intentions are. I think as we left it last time, the thought was in terms of percentages, were you saying, boy, we have to define which percentage model we're going to use? Are we saying city is 50, we're 50, and thus it's broken into two 25s? Or of our 50% becomes 100? But it gets tricky.
Yeah.
We just have to all speak the same language.
Boy, that spread fast. Okay. Oh, thoughts and questions for Helen in discussion?
I just think it's good to bring up every time that this is a renewal. This is asking the folks for renewal of the current public safety tax, which will expire when?
March 31st, 2025.
Correct. So if the voters approve this portion, it would start April 1, 2025.
Correct. It's a renewal. Yep.
Yes.
Continuation, if you will, of that.
So the first time that it was voted down was basically the same version of what we have now was put out to the voters, correct?
Correct. The language was very similar. It added in that element of behavioral health because that was one of our intentions for using it, but there was no reference to quality of life projects.
Yeah, so for the folks in the crowd and the recording, I mean, the discussion we're having today is, do we put out to the voters for a renewal of the 1% public safety tax using the terms public safety, quality of life, and mental health, or just health? Is that
Behavioral health?
behavioral health? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
We've talked about rural health as one of the options.
What are the differences, obviously, between 5 and 6 that we're looking at is the public safety going from 20% down to 17%, which is 4 million a year versus 4.8 million a year. The question would be, is 4 million going to work for public safety, or, you know, again, these are estimates because those numbers will change up or down.
Right.
But these are the averages.
So to throw a monkey wrench into all of our discussion, I mean, a gentleman approached me over the weekend about concerns with this tax that, one, like the purchase of new farm equipment pays the 1%, and there's no cap to the dollar amount that is paid. So a $200,000 purchase pays $2,000. Lindsay provided me with some documentation of different towns, counties that have limits per transaction, but I'm just explaining the conversation the gentleman and I had. So, what's your folks' thoughts?
I would highly discourage any limitation. I would say it's a yes or a no. Just from an administrative perspective, asking businesses to do a calculation, asking the state to do a calculation, asking the county to do a calculation only leads to refunds, which has very negatively impacted the Park District and the city. So I think that's an
FYI too, gentlemen, we had that on the first ballot that we had for the new jail when we built the original new jail. And it became, in my opinion, a nightmare for Kari's office, because if memory serves me correct, Helen, you were here then, and Beth, I think it was up to 2 years after the tax had expired, at least 2 years, that we had to continue to have funds to refund money back to those that had requested it.
And if I recall, we had to keep like $1 million in a segregated fund for that money to be paid back.
And for the record, Lindsay, it's 3 years that you have, they have 3-year window for refunds.
One of the city explored this. Don't quote me on any of this. I mean, I know I'm being recorded, but my general memory was, although this ends up to be a question from the ag community, and you guys could tell me better than anyone else, I think there's actually less new equipment purchased than people think, and so the tax is actually assessed in most places on used equipment sales, which is a bulk of sales, maybe. There was some research done on this that made this whole conversation a little less troubling, is what I remember.
I bet you if you call Gooseneck, I'm sure they'd be willing to share how many new equipment sales they do.
I mean, certainly what we know is that the large-scale purchases and the big contributions come from the energy sector purchases and not necessarily from the ag sector, but certainly to the individual purchaser, it's an expense.
Well, just for conversation, because I got this
same type of phone call. And I don't think a cap is the answer of any of it, but just to throw it out, what about just exempting new ag equipment? I don't know if that's an answer or not, but exempt it completely, and then it's not a refund.
I'm not a business owner. I'm gonna look at someone who is. Is it easy enough to make the software exempt? Yes, no?
Yeah, where it gets to be a pain is when it's a cap, and that's annoying and creates administrative overhead and costs on businesses. So it's for me, just exempt it or don't exempt it. Yeah.
I guess that's what
Everybody- I think
that's what I
everybody's
was
on-
saying. I don't,
Yep, yep.
and I'm still torn, whether that's the right answer or the wrong answer. That's why I was throwing it out for discussion, because I think the cap's it's just too much of a nightmare to keep track of. And we don't need to be 3 years down the road. We saw what that has done to other political subdivisions right here, so.
And I think your point is that new equipment's incredibly expensive. There's a lot of points to be made there, but one of the concerns I have is that we've got food as security, and we produce a lot of food. And, from that standpoint, I'm very supportive. The flip side of that is, not everybody gets that. If you're a commercial operator, you buy a new road grader, congratulations if you can buy a new one. But you don't get that same treatment. So it's hard to pick winners and losers in these situations, but
I'm also torn. I mean, I understand it. I am not a purchaser of new equipment unless it's a adjustable wrench, tools, But I'm reluctant because it's like the only fair tax is one that everybody pays, and if you're not in favor of it, you vote no. I mean, I don't want to pick winners and losers in this either. So I'm hoping our goal is to propose a plan for the public to look at that says if you are willing to renew the 1% tax, here is how we're going to use the money differently based on the quality of life study that we've had, the behavioral health needs that we know we have, and the public safety needs that we know will continue. Yes or no? I mean, it's not up to us to say we're shoving this down your throats, pay 1%. If you're for it, vote for it. If not, no. If it fails, thank you for your consideration.
you know what, you make a great point too, because right here in the quality of life improvements are ag programming and meeting complex, livestock and equestrian arena with stall barns. So, I mean, it's kind of counterproductive to exclude those who might benefit from these things. So, anyway, great point. Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just to clarify, and I know Lindsay sent me a lot of information on local sales use. New farm equipment, regardless, pays 3% to the state. Is that how it reads? Yeah. So, also used farm equipment, I believe it must, because I know I paid sales tax on used sprayer tires. Yeah, well, I know I paid some tax. I don't remember what it was, but
Can you repeat into the mic? I didn't hear what she said, just so people.
I didn't hear it either. I saw her lips moving. Sorry. Oh, just. Yeah, there's a lot of rules for ag exemptions. And to some extent, some used equipment is exempt from tax and some is not.
And there are different, I think also I heard her say state tax, so there's different layers of taxing, and I think there are different exemptions within
I
that.
guess the one chunk of tidbit of information I learned through our discussion was vehicle purchases and stuff do not pay any of this tax. They are assessed the excise tax that goes directly to the state DOT. Am I correct in that saying? So, I mean, that was good knowledge for me to understand. So do you need a option, this is what we're going to propose to the public for the 1% tax today? Correct?
I mean, the sooner the better for us. I can't force you to do it today, but it's hard for us to engage with our stakeholders and even start to put together beyond, in a real general way, what our communication will say to the taxpayer, to the voters, until we hear from you a plan. I guess I'll lay the groundwork with what percentage language we're gonna use. So if we say 50% of the 1 cent goes to the city, then I believe our last conversation was 20% would be allocated toward public safety, 2% toward that behavioral rural health element, and then 28% quality of life. So if we stick with those, that type of description for how these percentages play out, that would be helpful.
So with saying it that way, Helen, we're not really gonna split out the difference in the
Subdivide the quality of life.
That's what I'm.
You can,
I mean, that's my question. Is that what everybody's comfortable with, not subdividing it? I guess I've been the one that keeps saying I think we need to subdivide it. So, for one thing, some of these projects know what they're going to be getting, and we're not setting an imaginary number that. Because if you get 50% of it, or if you get 10% of it, is a pretty big difference.
I guess I would say the reality is there is another set of priorities for you all to guide us on, and that is within that quality of life component, how do we distribute priority? Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sterling, your mother's here.
I agree with Corey. I think we have to have it well-defined in order for people to be able to.
I prefer it broke apart, so that way, you know, the people that are in, you know, have something in these particular ones that are broke apart, they know what could be accessed or.
Yeah, I guess I would like it for the public to be very clear that this is the plan moving forward, and if they agree with it, they do, and if they don't, they don't.
So before, when we were talking about it, we kind of sort of agreed that like option 2 was kind of the better of the 4. So now with option 5 or 6, option 5 really is option 2B, right? Yeah.
Option 2 with the percent changes that we made, so.
Right.
And then we had one commissioner ask for a variation, and so we gave it out to everyone.
Yeah, the question is whether or not public safety can go down to 17%.
Yeah, I was just looking at that between the two. I'm sorry, I just, it was the numbers I just shown Barry was, that second option is 17. I mean, pretty hard for anybody to say $40 million isn't a lot of money.
Right, meaning 17% estimated to be 40 million. Is a significant amount of money to our public safety agencies over time.
And the gentleman that spoke to me about farm equipment, I think his assumption that was that 1%, the 50% the county collects will continue to all go to public safety. So he hadn't heard about all this other discussion. So as it was to him, the language would stand as the last time that it was proposed. So,
And hard to say whether this thought that Steve had, which is the community of which you are a part, would see some difference in, there would be an improvement in the facilities and the options to your community in particular. You might get to go to a meeting in a new building in the off-season as a producer. Might make him feel different.
I like option 6, but I'd need to hear from Barry and Corey as to whether or not I think that the public safety side is.
And I don't have a huge problem with, I mean, option 6, I like the number. The only thing I don't like is the quality of life isn't split out. So to me, the numbers make sense.
I'll help explain how that came about, means I'm gonna stand up and say that I guess unfortunately, gentlemen, or fortunately, I was the one that proposed this and Lindsay was gracious enough to put it together. Thank you. And the reason, Corey, that I thought they should be together is a couple of reasons. The ag and the ice, I think, could work together more efficiently, in my opinion, by maybe looking at the possibility of sharing space. And I firmly believe that if they're going to do this, that they should be together. For that reason, and also for the reason is, gentlemen, in my opinion, if Williams County is going to stick their neck out on $120 million or whatever the bond amount ends up being, I think we are the ones that need to be in charge of the facilities. And it makes more sense to me, in my mind, that the two are combined rather than separate. If we're going to have somebody oversee the operations of the facilities and using existing county staff maybe to help maintain it in the future. Where it's at, I don't know. That's a discussion that needs to be made with the entities, but I am of the belief that if it's going to be located in Williston Square, that the city of Williston needs to pony up financially and not just in gratuities towards giving properties so that these facilities can be built. So that's where I was.
Let me just clarify to people who don't see what you're seeing. So in other option papers, documents, we called out egg programming and meeting space as one thing, livestock, arena, stall barns as another thing, and then indoor ice as a third. And in the option that Commissioner Montgomery asked us to put together, those things are bundled together in one item, one line item. And so I think that's what you all are talking about right now is, should those things, three things be called out separately or bundled together?
Well, and the other thing is too, I guess, in bundling them together, we never know, there could be a possibility that one might need a little more money or a little less money. And we're not tying their hands to that. You know what I'm saying? We're not capping them or limiting to them to not be able to have more or less by sharing some of the facilities, I guess, which makes sense to me.
I was wrong once. Somebody told me that. But.
I guess I understand what you're saying. And I think in the big picture, that is the goal. We want all the groups to work together because what's happening here is what everybody's asking for. This isn't enough money. So I don't see it as being a problem even if we split it out. But if two of those groups get together and then they have $27 million to use rather than 12 and, you know, whatever the numbers are, that's a better thing, but it also, it would encourage them to work together, whereas this one, I don't know that, I still don't, I don't see how it's gonna be split out. I mean, even if we want the building to work, if we don't have the groups buy in 100%, how are we gonna make it work?
There has to be more, obviously, discussions down the road, Commissioner Hanson. I agree. But we're the ones taking the lead on this, so I guess we're the ones that have to come up with a plan that needs to be discussed, I guess.
So, in prior discussion, you know, when we talked, the quality of life meeting, there was discussion about the ag facility, one side, hockey facility, another. The fear that I had and a few others had is we're gonna end up with two facilities that operationally cannot cash flow. So we'll end up with two facilities that are a taxpayer burden. And, you know, I think we're gonna have to be creative in this area, that if we're gonna commit to quality of life activities, we have to also be committed to being as operationally sound as fiscally possible. And, I mean, my concern with lumping them all together is creating a huge argument over what's more important. However, being the adults in this situation, I would certainly hope that there is compromise and a plan and a logical solution, provided the taxpayers approve it and believe that what we're proposing is necessary and important, that this group is committed to coming up with a plan that works and is fiscally responsible.
And just a reminder, these percentages will not be listed in the ballot language. My understanding, and I'll have a call in the coming days with the bond council, but my understanding is that it would not be customary or maybe even appropriate to put these kinds of details into the ballot language. And so it is an ordinance that the commission passes, ordinance resolution, whatever the right word is, that the commission passes, I think at whatever point they do, in order to codify the plan. And all expenditures will need to be approved by this board. And so this idea that we have to, there's so much to be decided, so much. But at the point that a plan comes together with a location, and now, you know, there's a purchase or the use of property, there is the payment for engineering and architectural services, and then there's the actual decision, once all of the work goes into it. Can we see a path to fully fund and then sustainably operate this facility? The Board of Commissioners will have all of the information and the right to make those approvals all along the way.
I like the idea, kind of bundling the groups together from one standpoint, and that's from a cost savings perspective. And I think if you can share a parking lot, if you can share walls, you cut down on the duplicative effort that you put into building separate facilities and locations. And, you know, speaking to the big projects, there's a lot of other little projects. I don't mean to disregard them, but when you're talking about this big stuff, if there's anything that we can do to share resources, I think it just makes a ton of sense. And I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of including making them more cost effective to run, whatever those measures might be, whether it's geothermal, heat pumps, if it's even doable. I mean, solar or wind or any of the little things that you can do to just offset some of the operational costs to make sure these things will work into the future and be maintained. Commissioner Montgomery, appreciate that as well.
I think my point would be, though, that, and I think this is what Commissioner Hanson is saying, the groups that want to know if they should really, you know, get out and support this and be excited, or if they should just sort of sit back and wait and see because they don't know, they would like a little more assurance that they're not just part of the big bundle. And I don't think that that means they're not thinking yet about construction and where and how and what. They're just thinking about, is our project assured, or is our project considered one of the priorities? Is that what you're thinking?
That's exactly what I was trying to get at, because there's a big difference between the project getting 100,000 or 10 million. And if they don't know, I don't think it puts them in a good spot if they don't know the kind of dollars they could be talking about. Because again, $45 million for quality of life is a huge number. But if we can't tell people what that's going to go to, what does that mean? I mean, everybody's got their own ideas. We had some interesting conversations at the last meeting, and we brought up a whole lot of other quality of life things that could fall in. So,
Well, I think the good news is the quality of life study basically separated those out into two areas as far as the two major projects, which would be the equestrian and livestock facility and the hockey. And I want to say, I mean, grand scheme of things, if they were both done 100% to what he proposed, would be what, 180 million? I think ag was 74, hockey was 100-ish, give or take. It's not an attainable number, period. I mean, that's a lot of money. So, pardon? Okay, yeah, correct, yeah, ice, so, yeah, I would agree. Yeah, so ice, yes. So,
Yes, certainly the study provided us with what we asked, which is tell us in an ideal world with no money constraints, how would you do this the best? That, and you know, not the Cadillac version, but how would we do it if we had unlimited funds, in part because that's the part where we have to start to have the discussion in future years if the tax is passed.
Well, I mean, if right, again, have to be. And if ever the two between the two, and that way, like Corey said, they have an. So, if it's the case, let's just do that.
yeah, I think the biggest change was the 20% to 17 in the public safety. So if we can agree on that would be sufficient, then we can move the numbers.
David, your microphone.
Keep the numbers the same on 6, just unbundle the two and split that dollar amount between those two, between the ag and the
It's really
ice.
3.
there's 3 different things there. We got the ag program, meeting complex, livestock, equestrian with barns, and the year-round ice.
When I meant the ag, I meant the two. Them 3.
So option 6 with the unbundling of option 5.
Yes. And is it a third, a third, a third? Or is it some different split?
Well, the percentages on 5 were 6, 5, and 4. So I just said do 7, 6, and 5, and I have no reasoning behind why I said that, because it said 6, 5, 4 before. So
Yeah.
I figure we have 3 more percent.
Okay,
I think we're getting there, gentlemen. So if we say 50% goes to the city, 17% to public safety, 2% to health, behavioral health, so then it's a total of 31% of to quality of life. of the 31%, if you say, boy, I'd love to say, and I can't do anything, it's all you guys. But if you took a number that was divisible by 3, so say 18% went to these 3 big projects, then you could easily have the same percentage. Or you can leave it at 19%, which we see on the sheet, and you could then do weighted percentages if you chose.
Right, because it would have been originally, say, 5 is, unbundled. So the ag programming and meeting complex would move that up to 7. Livestock, equestrian area and barns would move from 5 up to 6, and the year-round ice from 4 up to 5.
Great.
So, I mean, that's, but
If you're good with that,
but
I
I'm
am.
missing where you lost me when you started talking about 19, because that,
Oh, I was just using the number that was on one of these as a, yep, you guys get to choose.
I wasn't choosing, that was just a idea.
I thought that was a motion.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Beth just asked a clarifying question. And again, we have something in front of us and not everybody does. The remaining quality of life dollars then are used for all of the rural communities and some of the smaller projects right around the area of Williston. And so there's these 3 big things. That's why we end up talking about them. But there's lots of other needs in terms of quality of life that would be addressed with the other funding.
Yeah, which is 13%, right? That number stays the same.
Okay,
Wouldn't it be easier just if we reduce the city's amount to 40%?
You got what you need? We need to make a motion, though, to approve that option. Yeah, go ahead, Lindsay, and
Push. I pulled a David. To recap, 50% of the city of Williston, 18% would be public safety, which would be about 4.2 million annually.
Where'd you get 18? You've
That's
been
a-
talking 17 the whole time.
I don't know, you messed me up with your 19, which is why we're recapping.
Because the 19 was a wrong number, because there was 101%.
No, there's decimals involved.
Okay.
I made the spreadsheet.
17.
All right, so then that goes back. Okay.
See, I had it on paper. So then we have 31% for.
So with, but how are you keeping your 3 breakdown of the ag programming,
Yep.
livestock, and year-round ice?
765%.
Yep, so 50, 17, 2, 765, and 13 is 99%.
17, 2, and 31. Yeah, we have 31 is our quality of life number.
Okay.
And our other number just flexes however you need to flex it to get the percentages they've given us.
Yep, so that will go up.
We got it.
50% City of Williston, 17% public safety, 2% behavioral rural health, 7% ag programming meeting complex, 6% livestock equestrian, 5% year-round ice, 13% rural community projects. And I've added it twice, and it gave me up to 100 both times for me.
Yep, me too. We're doing percentages.
The value, yes. The values have to, your values will, The value's driving the percentages. Got it. Thanks.
And so everybody in the audience knows this is using the assumption, the dollar numbers is the assumption that we collect an average of 24 million gross, which would be the total 1%, half of which goes to the city.
Correct,
Is that correct?
correct. So, yeah,
So if we collect $1 million, the numbers change significantly.
yes, this is all variable based on the revenue of a sales tax. We are only putting percentages in, yeah. I would like a motion so that we have that for the record, and then we will use that. Motion? Please.
Help me. I'll make a motion that we go with, I guess, the option, was it 5 or 6?
No,
5.
let's not put an option.
I'll say option 5, with the breakdowns of the city of Williston receiving 50%, public safety 17%, health 2%, 7% for quality of life for ag programming and meeting complex, 6% for quality of life for livestock barns area setup, 5% for year-round ice sheets, and 13% for other Williston and rural community projects for a total of 100%.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion that we haven't already had? Roll call vote, Beth.
Barry,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes?
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, gentlemen. I have actually an email from bond counsel. I was out on Friday. And I did get an email, I think, from him yesterday, and so I'll work through that, and I don't have a button. So, updates to come on ballot language. Ready for my next item?
You bet.
All right, we have upgraded all of the access control systems in our buildings. We will be then upgrading the tokens, which are, we all refer to them as fobs or cards that allow us access into certain areas. And we use those same tokens to punch in and out on electronic time clocks. All county employees, of course, our time is tracked. And we need to upgrade those time clocks as a part of this ongoing effort. We've had most of these time clocks for 10 years, and so they have reached their end of life. So you see in front of you an estimate. We have a central capital fund that we use for purchasing of this kind of centrally owned equipment and furniture, for example. And so we have a place to fund this out of. I just need your permission to make the purchase because it isn't something that we budgeted when we talked last July.
Okay, what are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes?
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, a second unplanned expenditure, sorry for 2 in a row at the same meeting. For a number of years, I have considered and sought out options for a centralized, what's really a policy management platform, and I just haven't gotten to a place where I was comfortable with one or felt like I could just be sure it was the right one for us. But as it turns out, Dispatch is already using a policy management program. And so in my months now of working with Dispatch, I've had a chance to work with it, see how it works, and I was excited about it. And I'd like to integrate all of our HR policy, and I'm in the process of moving some HR work off of my desk, so this would be a part of that process. But we would also use it for other internal policy, including building policy, potentially finance-related policy. It's a central place where employees can go to see a policy document, and it tracks any changes. So today, we probably make a policy as a PDF, we email it out. An employee has to be sure that they're at the latest version of their emailed PDF to be getting the right information. This keeps it in a place, shows them the history. Today, if they pull it up, they can be assured it's the most current version. The contract that dispatch has expires in March. And so it is the right time right now, based on changes in staffing in HR, but also based on the contract that dispatch has going, to make this transition in 2024, as opposed to, I think the other alternative would have been to delay a year so that we talked about it during a budget cycle. So if it was okay with you, it would be a total of about $15,000, or the difference being probably about $12,000 for us to upgrade instead of just renewing, to upgrade and cover all employees through the licensing in this. Power DMS is the name of the platform.
I apologize for this question because I think you already answered it in a call we had, but could this also work for ordinances? I mean, just an easy way for the public to review ordinances as we make changes to them?
We could track them. This would be a way for us to track them internally. I didn't ask the question. I maybe didn't understand correctly your question. I don't know that we would make this, I don't know that we would integrate the public into this because it's a security protected platform.
Gotcha.
But certainly, we show all the ordinances on the website in their most current version. If we wanted to have a way, this is what I thought you were asking me, if we wanted to have an easier way to be able to go back and track over time changes that had been made, this could be used internally for that.
Perfect. Then that would be enough. I mean, so long as we have our current ordinances published, then that's fine. But internally, it'd be good to know when changes happen. So anyway, what are the wishes of the board?
I would make a motion to approve the expenditure.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Beth, roll call vote.
Steve?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, anything else for me?
I don't think so.
I believe you have a park board meeting coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, 5-minute break? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
re-adjourn as park board momentarily.
10:15, good enough, Jeremy? Okay.
I will have all those papers signed.